Good morning everybody. Today it's Tuesday the 20th of July and today we are going to be exploring what the humanist rules for living are. So we're going to start our recap quiz. Please make sure you have a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen to answer the questions. Pause the video here whilst you jot your answers down and then press play once you're ready to resume the lesson. Well done. Let's see how you did. Question 1. What are the rules for living in Islam? And they are called the 5 pillars. Question 2. True or false? Muslims must donate 25% of their savings to charity. That is false because it's 2.5%. Question 3. Where are Muslims expected to go on a pilgrimage, health and finances permitting? That is Mecca. And question 4, how many times a day do Muslims pray? That answer is 5. A huge well done if you got all of those questions correct. So today we're going to be looking at humanist rules for living, and before we really delve into it I want to give you a quick recap about humanist beliefs. You've already been learning a little bit about humanism this morning, but this might be helpful just to give you a refresher. So humanists believe that human beings evolved and were not created by a god. They believe that human beings are special and that human life is valuable. And they also base their beliefs on science and evidence rather than faith in a supernatural power. So take a moment now to consider, why do we have rules in life? What purpose do they give us? Do they help us? Do they not? What are your thoughts? Your first activity, you just need a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and I want you to write down a list of 5 places or situations you have been in where you follow a set of rules. For each of those places, I want you to jot down why you think these situations have rules to follow. If you don't have a pen and paper, then you can also type in your answers into your computer as well. You may wish to use these sentence starters, we have to follow rules in, this is because to help you, or simply use bullet points. We'll pause the video here whilst you write down those 5 places or situations and why they have rules to follow. Press play once you're ready to continue. So let's see if your answers matched up with anything that I have here. So first of all, rules and laws in society help to keep everyone safe. So the police are obviously involved in upholding those rules and laws, as are judges, and the judge was pictured on the previous slide. We have many rules in school which help everybody learn. That might be to ensure that children are able to concentrate in class, such as by asking children to remain quiet at certain points of a lesson, or by putting their hand up rather than shouting out answers, for example. We also have rules on the road to prevent accidents, so that may include traffic lights to ensure that cars stop and drive when it is safe, and even crossings as well to ensure that pedestrians are able to safely travel. There are also rules in sport to make it fair, that is fair for the players involved and also for spectators too. I'm sure you can think of lots of rules in lots of different sports. And finally, you may even have rules in your family which help to keep everyone happy. So that might be even you having tasks or chores or jobs to do around the home to show your contribution as well. Okay, so lots of different ways in which rules are applied and why they are used. So during our study this year, throughout year 5, we have looked at rules for living in lots of different religions. Now, we've generally defined these rules for living as being guidelines that believers of a particular religion or believers in a belief system will follow. Rules for living are to help people make the right choices and live good lives. And within those different religions that we've looked at, some rules are religious and give instruction on how to on expectations of being part of that religion, and also some rules are about how to live as a good person. And across these different religions we've looked at this year, some religious people have sets of rules to follow, and sometimes they are written down in religious texts. Take a moment now and consider, what rules for living can you remember from the religions we have studied this year? You may wish to pause the video to give yourself some time to think, or press play once you're ready to continue. So in Buddhism we looked at the Eightfold Path, and that can be broken down into 3 sections of wisdom, morality and concentration. Those rules include right understanding, right aspiration, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness and right concentration. In Judaism and Christianity, both religions share a set of rules, and they are the 10 Commandments. They are as follows: you shall only have one God. You shall not worship any idol. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord. You shall remember and keep the Sabbath day holy. Respect your father and mother. You must not commit murder or adultery. You must not steal. You must not lie. And you must not be envious. As for Hinduism, duties and rules for living is a little bit different because there are no strict and set rules, though the rules in Hinduism tend to typically involve honesty, not injuring living things, purity, goodwill, mercy, patience, forbearance, self-restraint, generosity and self-discipline. Hindus are also expected to adhere to truth and dharma, which is a lifelong duty of following moral law and doing the right thing, as well as an adherence to karma, which is someone's day-to-day actions and the negative or positive obligations these actions bring about. And in our last unit we learned about the 5 pillars of Islam. They include the declaration of faith, obligatory prayer, compulsory giving, fasting in the month of Ramadan, and pilgrimage to Mecca. So, do humanists have a set of rules to follow? Well, humanists believe that science can also inform, but not answer, non-scientific questions of meaning and value. And while science can support our understanding of what is, it cannot tell us what we ought to do. So to put it simply, humanists do not have a set text of rules to follow. Humanists instead believe that we should not accept all rules and authority. They believe that humans have an individual responsibility for our own actions, and they believe that humans should think carefully about the rules they are told. And in order to obtain the best course of action for the best consequences, then empathy, compassion and reason should guide people to work out what is right and what is wrong, rather than following a strict set of rules. So, reason, experience and empathy means this. Reason means to think carefully about an individual situation. Experience means to reflect on how you might have felt in the past if this had happened to you. And empathy is imagining how someone else will feel and how your actions will impact them. These 3 combined, humanists believe, ensure that the right course of action, or the best course of action, is taken. This doesn't mean that humanists do not follow rules, and in fact, many humanists believe that rules are good for society, but the reason behind them should be because it leads to good consequences. So, quick question for you here. True or false? Humanists have their own set of rules written down in a special text. What do you think? The answer is false. Humanists do not look to God or special texts for rules, but they believe everyone should think carefully about their actions and what is the right way to live. So how do humanists work out what is right or wrong? Well, as we've said, they should consider every particular situation, is what humanists believe. They do not think there is just one right answer for what is right or wrong in every situation, and they need to consider the effect of their choices on other people or the animals involved to ensure that the best outcome is obtained and that no harm is caused. So, for example, this is a rule that we are often reminded of, that you should never lie. Is this a good rule? Can you think of any instances of where this is a really great rule to follow? And maybe some examples of when maybe it should be broken. So this is our second activity. How might a humanist act? Your friend's birthday is coming up soon, and their family is planning a big surprise party. However, they are starting to get suspicious and ask you if you know what is going on. considering everything I've talked to you about so far, would a humanist tell the truth, or would they lie? Pause the video here and think about how the humanist process of what is right or wrong, and consider how a humanist might respond to this problem. You can jot down your ideas in just a sentence or two. Pause the video here, thinking about the humanist process of what is right or wrong, and considering how a humanist might respond to this problem. Press play once you're ready to continue. So, what would a humanist do in this instance? Well, of course a humanist would probably consider the individual situation, thinking about the consequences for their friend and the friend's family if they were to tell the truth or if they were to lie. Now, they may use their skills of empathy, of placing themselves in their friend's situation, and of compassion and kindness, and realise that if they tell the truth about the surprise party, they're going to spoil the surprise, which might hurt their friend in the long run because the surprise might be really worthwhile and make them really happy, and it may also hurt their friend's family, who've put a lot of effort into arranging the party. Therefore, the kindest action in this situation might be to lie. The lie isn't going to cause anybody any harm in this particular situation. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that you always lie, far from it, but what a humanist would consider the individual situation, and if the outcome would be kind or cruel to anybody involved. So, this is a rational approach. Humanists have a rational approach to knowledge and understanding, which means it's based on logic and reason, thinking about things. Humanists believe that human experience and rational thinking provide the only source of both knowledge and a moral code to live by. Human beings derive their moral code from lessons of history, so what has happened before us, personal experience, so what we've lived through, and of thought, of reason, of thinking about it. Humanists believe that rules are useful in society. However, inflexible rules can often complicate making decisions. Instead, humanists think we should think about the consequences of our actions and whether an action will lead to harm before thinking about whether we are following a particular rule. So again, we've used the example of the surprise party to explore that concept. Humanists think we should obey the law, but if there are laws we don't approve of, then they believe we have the right to argue the case for removing them or replacing them. Many humanists believe thinking about the consequences of our actions and the potential harm they may have on others is a more morally worthwhile way of deciding how we should act than unquestioningly obeying rules. So hopefully with our exercise with the surprise party, that approach has become more clear for you. So again, how do they work out what is right or wrong? So this really comes down to humanists deciding on the kindest course of action, the one that will cause the least harm for those involved. Think for yourself and act for everyone. This shows how thinking, using reason about the situation, deciding carefully, is best for everyone involved. So again, this is the approach. Reason, thinking about the situation, experience, thinking about how you may have felt, and empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, imagining how they would feel. Now, what is right and what is wrong? So Socrates was an ancient Greek philosopher, and he said this: "Do not do to others which would anger you if others did it to you too." Now, this is a rule that we often talk about in school and elsewhere, and it is basically called the Golden Rule. Now, this is very central to what humanists believe, and whilst it isn't really a rule for living, it certainly informs the decisions that humanists make. And there are two versions of this Golden Rule. There is the positive version, treat others as you would like to be treated yourself, and the second version, which is do not treat others in a way you would not like to be treated yourself. Many people around the world in lots of different belief systems follow this rule. So what does this rule actually mean? And is there a difference between the positive and negative versions? What do you think? So humanists in particular use the golden rule to guide their decisions on what is right and wrong, rather than relying on a strict set of rules. And here you can see just a few examples of the many of where the golden rule theme has appeared around the world and in other religions. You may wish to pause the video here whilst you read the different iterations of the golden rule. Humanists believe that this rule has evolved naturally as humans have long lived in communities, and it grew from our natural capacity to reason and to empathise, again to think about how other people feel in a certain situation. The golden rule promotes kindness and care for the less fortunate, because this is what we would want in their situation, and it discourages lying, bullying, cruelty and theft, because no one wants to be lied to be bullied, to be hurt, or to have their property stolen. Some humanists, though, think the golden rule can be misinterpreted, as people may not like the same things as you. For this reason, some humanists prefer the negative version of the golden rule, which is, do not treat others in a way you would not like to be treated yourself, as people can be more confident about things we would not like to happen. Some humanists believe in simply asking other people what makes them happy and what makes them unhappy would be very helpful here. And we must acknowledge that not everyone's tastes and opinions are the same, and none of us wants anyone to act towards us without considering our personal wishes and interests. So, for example, if somebody was a bit of a risk taker, they might misapply the golden rule by giving somebody or making a risky decision that might affect somebody else when they wouldn't like that themselves. But used correctly, the golden rule applies not to our specific likes and dislikes, but on a level above them. Our desire to have our interests taken into account, and our wishes fulfilled, and our fears avoided. So again, it's not about thinking what you like and giving that to somebody else, it's more about wishes and fears. It's on another level. And I have another activity for you here. You've received a letter from a girl called Sam, and she's written, "Last week I was on a trip with 3 of my friends. I was put in charge of buying lunch, and so at lunchtime I went to the shop. I wanted to do the right thing, so I followed the golden rule. My favourite sandwich is tuna mayonnaise, so I bought tuna mayonnaise for everyone. However, when I handed out the sandwiches, Caroline said she would have preferred cheese, Emma said she didn't like tuna, and Jacob said he was allergic to mayonnaise. I don't understand what went wrong, because I treated everyone else how I'd like to be treated. Where did I go wrong? Yours sincerely, Sam." So what I'd like you to do is to produce a response to this letter in a letter form and thinking about, could you have done anything better than Sam? What would you have done differently? And did the golden rule not work? Or was Sam just not using it appropriately? So think about everything we've discussed with regards to the golden rule. Apply it to this situation. Do you think this was used appropriately or not? How could it be used more appropriately next time? I would like you to write a letter in response to Sam, explaining where she went wrong and how she might better employ the golden rule next time. So here are some steps to success that may help you structure your letter. Now I've given you the first step, but then the other 2 steps that require you thinking about the golden rule and how to apply it, I've left more open for you. So it's really important that we address it back to Sam, and I think the first step should be that we reassure Sam, because even though things didn't quite work out and she's misinterpreted the golden rule, she has tried to help her friends, she has tried to be empathetic, and she's also been really reflective about the situation and how she can improve it next time. So I've said, you did a great thing by helping your friends, and it's even better that you are being reflective. I've got some tips to help you. So we want to make Sam know that it's okay that things went wrong and that she can fix it next time, but in a really friendly way. And you can be informal with your tone if you want to practice those informal writing skills too. So then, where did Sam go wrong should be our next step. So we want to actually pinpoint what it is that Sam did wrong in that scenario. So I started mine off with saying, firstly, things went wrong for you because.
what is it that Sam misapplied about the golden rule? What has she misinterpreted that meant that she got the sandwich orders wrong, and in some cases it would even be quite dangerous in terms of allergies? Then our next step, the green step, what should Sam have done? So this is, you can empathise, you say, next time if I were you, I would, or start it off with how I've started mine. Instead, you should, and then what should Sam do next time in order to make sure that the golden rule is followed correctly and not misapplied? Then a simple sign off with, I hope that helps, or I'm sure things will go better for you next time, and then sign your name. So it doesn't have to be very long, it can just be about half a page, reassuring Sam, highlighting where Sam went wrong and what should Sam have done. So really looking forward to seeing those on Seesaw.
Well done for completing the activity. So some humanists believe that the golden rule should be modified slightly, so it's slightly more nuanced. Derek Parfit, philosopher, made this statement: "We ought to treat everyone as we would rationally be willing to be treated if we were going to be in all those people's positions and would be relevantly like them. This essentially means we should always imagine we were the other person, with their tastes and preferences, and think about how they would like to be treated." Humanists believe that being good to other people, either through empathy and experience and reason or by following the golden rule, is important as it makes other people happy, makes the world a better place, and as a result makes ourselves happy too. Take a moment here to think, how might a humanist respond to these statements about rules? It's never okay to break a rule. Pause the video here while you take a moment to reflect on that. Or, we can't be good without rules to guide us. How might a humanist respond to that statement? And finally, the golden rule doesn't work because people like different things. Again, pause the video, while you take a moment to think about that. Now for your final activity, which is to draw a Venn diagram, and that is to help you compare humanism and the rules for living in a religion that you've studied this year. So you get to choose the religion. It might be one that you have a lot of knowledge about. You might want to move the video back to early on in the lesson, then you can see the rules for living I provided. Now I've given you a lot of knowledge here about humanism, and I want you to remember these main concepts. So in humanism, humanists believe in using reason, empathy and experience to inform decisions to ensure the kindest outcome is achieved with the least harm caused, and the golden rule, that use of empathy and imagining what other people would like and wouldn't like in that scenario. So you can see on the home learning sheet I provided you with a template of the Venn diagram, but you can also draw your own. Now you can see I've drawn around 2 circles to create my own Venn diagram here. I am comparing humanism and Islam. So this isn't the entire comparison and contrast. I've just got a bit of a start here in case you want to use mine to help you. So in humanism I've said that there are no strict rules, which there aren't. However, in Islam there are 5 rules for living, the 5 pillars. Something they both have in common is that guidance encourages kindness to others. So you can continue comparing and contrasting humanist and Islam rules for living, or you may want to choose a different religion comparing to humanism. So pause the video here whilst you complete that, and then press play to resume your lesson. So that's it for today. We've got an ending quiz for you now, so hopefully you're feeling much more confident in answering questions about humanist rules for living. So pause the video here whilst you jot down your answers to these 3 questions, then press play once you're ready to see how you did. So question 1, do humanists have a strict code of rules to follow? The answer is no, they don't. Question 2, reason, experience and empathy, was the missing word there, influence a humanist decisions on what to do. Question 3. What are the negative and positive versions of the golden rule? The first one is to treat others as you would like to be treated yourself, and the negative version is do not treat others in a way you would not like to be treated yourself. Well done everybody, we covered lots of knowledge today, and as I said, I hope you're feeling much more confident in being able to discuss humanist rules for living. Have a great day everybody, take care.